Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
Second by Trustee Guzman. And the motion is to terminate for convenience. Trustees, please cast your votes. That passes. Please no applause. I do need to read these off. That is, oh. I'm sorry, John, that I keep doing that to you. The vote is as follows. Yes, Trustee Ford. No, Trustee Garcia Morales. Yes, Trustee Cepeda. No, Trustee Williams. Yes, Trustee Cavazos. Yes, Trustee Guzman. No, Trustee Brooks. That is passed, and we are closing out this item at this time.
Before you close it out,
we are now, trustees, we are closing out 3:01.
I'd like to make a statement.
I believe you should grant him the opportunity to make a statement.
No, there's no problem with that. I'm just checking with Ms. Miller. All right. Go ahead, Dr. Jara.
As superintendent of the Clark County School District since my arrival in 2018, I want to be very clear that my focus has never wavered from working every single day to improve the well-being and academic success of our students. While some...
Please, the audience, I do not want to clear the room. Please, he deserves to be able to make a statement without interruption. Please.
While some members of this board seek to continue and try to run the operations of this school district and micromanage me and undermine staff, I have been dedicated to protecting the staff from overreach and interference. My focus on student achievement and well-being has never and will never waver in my career. Unfortunately, a majority of this board did not share the same vision for this community, and the children will suffer because of it. Thank you, members of the board. If I can excuse myself for the evening.
Yes, sir. Please, it is not acceptable to do that. Please, I ask you for some dignity and some respect. Please, we are now going to move on to agenda item 302.
I just want to make a statement on the record that you lost the entire executive staff. I hope you know that, Linda. You are a toxic leader in this district, and I hope every single one of these parents see it.
Can you please cut the mic?
You're going to cut my mic? Linda, you're
Yes.
not my boss. I don't work for you. Then I will see you guys in 2024. I really love you guys. I really do. And I hope you guys know how much I work for you.
Audience, please, I cannot proceed without calm.
And there you have it. That is your CCSD Superintendent and Board of Trustees. All the whining, all the mudslinging, and just like that, a few months after extending his contract, Jara is now terminated from serving as superintendent. My name is John Brookhagen. Welcome to the Johnny Brew Show and this very special, in-depth, behind-the-scenes episode covering everything that's happened this week in CCSD, and holy cow, it is a lot. First, I gotta remind you guys, if you want this great coverage all the time, please, we are on YouTube. I need you to like the videos. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell. All right, we're on Rumble. Rumble.com, type in The Johnny Brew Show with no spaces, and that's how you'll find our videos right there. Audio only. If you're old school like me, you like your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Anchor, yada, yada, yada. On Facebook, we're at The Johnny Brew Show, which covers everything as far as our broadcasts. Common Sense Nevada, which is a potpourri of politics, culture, education, everything. It is the village square. And then, of course, we have the new CCSD Board of Trustees for 2022 and 24, which is where you can find all the candidates running for election, or should there be a recall of some sort, that's where we will find all of our candidates so you can become more educated. Now, a friend of the Johnny Brew Show has got some news. She started a journalism site, and so far in its infancy, I have really enjoyed it. I decided, excuse me, I'm going to speak. I have decided, since I'm enjoyed reading it so much, I want to show you what a nice, easy, yet informative read it is, because its author is going to be our guest here on the Johnny Brew Show. It's Basta Jara. CCSD trustees say enough. Send Jesus Jara scurrying for the exit in a 4-3 vote. What now? Drama and chaos marked a wild night of government at the Clark County School District's trustee meeting. In the end, overwhelming pressure applied by a potpourri of groups, including No Racism in Schools, 1865, Mi Familia Vota, and Make CCSD Great Again. So a trustee, Irene Cepeda, switch her vote regarding the employment status of Jesus Jara, a swap from the spring directly resulting in Jara's ignominious dismissal. Recriminations flew as trustee Katie Williams left after the vote in a storm of protest, while trustees Lola Brooks and board president Linda Cavazos engaged in a tense exchange shortly after. With Nevadans celebrating a state holiday today, many are asking, what comes next? Monday will provide some answers, but until then, nothing summed up the lingering feelings of recrimination still pulsating through the veins of supporters on both sides than this candid photo taken by conspiracy theorist Susan Prophet of an unnamed advocate for Jara's dismissal. It's a picture you could find on Facebook at the new Board of Trustees for CCSD. There is some allegations that this is a family member of Linda Cavazos. Nonetheless, without further ado, I introduce my co-host for the day, Miss Sara Cirillo. How are you, Sara?
Hey, John. It's great to be back on the Johnny Brew Show. I know we've had our ups and downs, but I'm happy to be here, as always.
Well, you're here for one reason, and it's because you got the goods. You got the information, and you seem to be on the side of truth more than a political side, which I would hope some people have the same opinion of me. And if you're going to spit some truth and you got some stuff that could educate the viewers, I'll have you on every week if you could provide that. First of all, what's going on with you? I heard that you're not running for office anymore, and now you're going to become a journalist.
So you understand what censorship is. And censorship has become a plague across the United States, and some would say across the globe.
Used to be a liberal point of view.
I believe in truth, and I believe in the Constitution, Johnny. And therefore, I was censored in August, press conference held by the gatekeeping media of Las Vegas. They tried to shake me down and force me to go on record with some information that I wasn't willing to. And ultimately, I said to myself, a lot of the information that they're running stories off of, they're coming to me for sourcing anyway. I can do their job and do it better and bring it directly to the people, just like you chose to do with the Johnny Brew Show. And that's where political.tips came from. We've now had 20,000 viewers to the site, 8,000 unique visitors. And those numbers caused me to realize what's more important, a title or making a difference in the world? And I feel through political.tips, I can make a greater difference right now. I don't need a title. I don't need to run a race. We just need the truth out there.
Well, me personally, I love it. Because I don't want some crazy progressive in office. So win. And when you're doing this work, again, I really enjoy, I mean, I've only read a half dozen of your articles, but so far it doesn't seem slanted in any direction other than the truth. And you're uncovering things, and, you know, people from all sides of the spectrum might like or dislike some of the things you got to say, but it doesn't seem like you're trying to pursue an angle. You know, much like Danielle Ford, who I don't necessarily agree with politically on all things. I feel like she just brings the truth, and she's not always falling on one side consistently, which makes her disliked, which probably makes you disliked. And, you know, and I can appreciate that. And to be honest, I think the dialogue and the discourse is more important. And I find people from the progressive side are more and more difficult to speak with rationally. But as much as we've disagreed on things, I don't think we've ever had an irrational conversation.
I think that's a factual statement, and the facts are what we need to work with and to find that common ground. Because ultimately, the elitists are the ones that are out to get the left and the right.
And you conservatives, remember, the Johnny Brew Show kept Sara out of office. I'm going to take credit for that. I'm doing work for the conservative movement here. You got to understand. All right. Well, anyway, I don't mean to blow sunshine up your butt, for lack of a better term. I don't know why that popped into my head, but
oh my God.
But I do enjoy your articles, and I don't know, maybe you could, did you enjoy the way I read your prose?
It was stunning. It was amazing.
Good, yes. Good. Well, I want to give you an opportunity to share the next one, because we're going to piggyback off of this article you wrote. I think it was just before the meeting.
That's correct. The article you're asking me to look at was done the day before the meeting, so fortuitous timing. I reached out to a personal friend, although she's a political opponent of mine, Katie Williams, trustee of District B, and I asked if she'd be willing to do an on-the-record interview. And boy, did she go on the record. And you mentioned something about both sides. Katie loved the interview, and Katie's opponents loved the interview. And I thought that was a very
Well, I have a feeling we're going to be talking a lot about Katie Williams, because not only do you divulge some intimate information in this article that you're going to share pre-meeting, but then with her tweets since the meeting, and then on the phone, I don't know if you're just trying to get me excited or what, but you tell me that you've spoken with her again since then, and you got some really interesting information. So I'm really looking forward to this. So why don't you read us the article, and then we'll get started with the festivities.
Excellent.
The floor is yours.
For your audience, there is some new news that has not been reported elsewhere that I picked up from Katie in a conversation last night. But let's go with the article first. Thank you, Johnny. Exclusive interview. Defiant CCSD trustee Katie Williams. Quote, "I'll never apologize. Looks to the future." Originally slated to run yesterday, several breaking reports emerged relating to CCSD, necessitating the need to push back our interview. Trustee Williams obliged, and with the sunlight rapidly diminishing around my campsite, we finally connected by phone around 6:30 p.m. With a history of firing back at her opponents online through vague tweets and biting innuendos, my first question to the trustee revolved around recent tweets about violating open meeting laws. Who accused her, and what did she have to say in defense to them? Williams audibly laughed at my inquiry. People write stuff about me all the time, and now this is the newest thing coming up. So I'm just going to repeat it here until they get tired. And I'll say it now. I've never violated an open meeting law. These people saying these things just aren't paying attention. This led me to broaching the subject of a blind item sent to me last week, which suggested the possibility that Miss Williams, a former pageant winner, was engaging in a relationship with a high-ranking government appointee. Here we go. The blind item stated, Dateline Hollywood. What former beauty queen was seen canoodling in Las Vegas with a certain married chief executive of a large government agency? With formalities dropped, I asked her pointedly, Katie, if this is you and you're seeing someone, aren't you worried about any ethics complaints arising from it? Letting out an exasperated sigh, the trustee opened up. This wasn't expected when I ran. The intense interest in my private life? Since people seem to want to know, I'll confirm it. My husband and I recently divorced. Right now, our relationship is in a much better space, both as loving co-parents and close friends. In fact, we happily share custody of our child, and out of respect for him, and our daughters, I'm not saying anything else about the topic except to add, I'm not interested in dating anyone since my focus is on our daughter and my professional responsibilities. With this out of the way, we delved into the substance of some of the problems revolving around the district and its personalities. Katie, we used to be much closer. I think this is the longest conversation we've had since May. It's out there in the public sphere that I've asked you to resign. Yet, you're willing to speak to me now, on record. I won't ask you to reveal how you plan to vote, but you know I'm in favor of firing Dr. Jara. Why are you speaking to me so openly? At that, Katie and I shared a few words about being continuously lumped in together by some people. And then she moved into the answer. I'm a believer in the First Amendment, and I'm also a believer in being accessible. With that, I cut her off, reminding her that one of the most frequent complaints about her by her detractors is that she's in fact not accessible. Sarah, that's just not true. I've never declined in a community meeting that the district has set up. And I tell my constituents all the time, email me. If they email, I'll work with them to arrange a get-together. These suggestions that I'm not available really are just politically motivated attacks on my agenda. In fact, here's my email for all of your readers. And with that, she insisted I publish her email. Her email for readers who don't want to go and search for it would be willikj3@nv.ccsd.net. The trustee's mention of attacks created a segue to address why I called on her to resign, specifically due to her inflammatory use of hashtags, baiting her opponents on Twitter, asking her to take a moment and think about apologizing to the public for the use of QAnon-associated acronyms and mocking appropriations of other groups' social justice campaigns. Katie responded without equivocation. No, never. I'll never apologize, said Katie, and I don't need to. Not only do I champion free speech, there's no need to apologize for something that I didn't do wrong. Pivoting away from the controversial social media post, the accusations of fraud surrounding over $1 billion in no-bid contracts awarded by the current board and Dr. Jesus Jara came next. Her tone, previously defiant, became explanatory. The board is aware of everything when it comes to the process of awarding contracts, and if we have questions, we can request to have them answered. Not every contract goes to open bidding. At the district, we need to have 2 or more comparable products or vendors in order to open it up. In the case of the article you're referencing, to call them no bid is just a website trying to get clicks. With darkness now draping me, I headed into the tent to finish up the conversation. Katie, this week is meaningful. This week matters to students, parents, teachers, all the staff and the entire community. Can the board work together? Katie wasn't finished. Sara, we have great staff across the district, visiting schools, speaking to the teachers and administrators, speaking and working with the great student achievers in our district. That's what makes me proud as a public servant. So yes, the board can work together if we gather a group of pragmatic, mission-focused people who are willing to run for office and join me as fellow trustees, with all of us just focused on making sure the kids come first without the drama and lies. I asked her who she thought needed replacing. She wouldn't give me any names, choosing instead to issue a sweeping statement. Every single one of them causing chaos needs to be gone. Trustee Williams added a follow-up. Sara, what I know and other parents know and teachers know is that it all comes back to the kids. That's it. My detractors can scream at me and threaten me and tell me they'll recall me, or like you, that I should resign. But since it's about the kids, I'm not going anywhere. Not now and not tomorrow. I'm fighting for the students and the families of my district and county. Saying our goodbyes, I threw out one final question. Who are you endorsing for governor? Thinking she declined to answer, she surprised me. Nice try, Sara, but I told you I'm focused on the kids, not the governor's race. However, my guess right now is it will come down to Michelle Fiore and Joe Lombardo. Thank you, Johnny.
You know, I think that's just a perfect example of, I mean, it's like sing-songy, like it's like a story, and it's like Bob Ross while you're at the campsite. But you talk about everything from sex life to policy to funding to economics to the vote, you know, and it's an enjoyable read. And that's why I was asking you to share it. And I hope if you guys enjoy that, you know, you could look up political.tips. That's weird. It's not like politicaltips.com. It's political.tips. Very
Correct.
Contemporary.
Yes.
You know, it's so 2021 of you.
Us millennials, Johnny.
I'm stuck in the 20th century. Anyway, all right. So, you're friends with Katie. Are you friends with Katie Williams? Is Katie Williams your friend?
Katie Williams is my friend.
Is she your bestie?
She is not my bestie.
Was she ever your bestie?
No, Katie Williams was never my bestie. Katie Williams and I had a lot of overlapping aspects of our lives in common that we were able to bond over, along with our views of needing to do what you and I were just discussing, which is to bust through the gatekeeping mentality of the elites,
right,
in order to have ourselves have a voice.
All right. And, you know, when you were undercover, were you pulling for Katie Williams?
I was a little bit upset with the fact that Jeff Profit had originally stated that he would come to a gathering where multiple candidates came. Then he canceled. Katie came without a problem, and I saw the way Katie interacted. So I was not upset to see Katie win, because I felt that somebody who had spent $70,000 of other people's money on a race and
right,
couldn't even keep up with his commitments.
Right. But so you just liked her better than she was the lesser of two evils.
Sure. And let's not forget Katie's original campaign promise.
Well, that's what I'm going to get to next, is that she ran on getting Jara out.
And I wanted Jara out. And so, of course, I was going to support anyone who wanted Jara out.
Why did you want Jara out?
due to the fact, and without getting too much into personal life, somebody very close to me has been a school teacher, and my son was in school here. He's going to graduate from school here. He was born in Las Vegas. He's a product of CCSD. And ultimately, there were rumblings about some district shakeups at the principal level. We lost my son's principal halfway through, a very good principal. I also didn't like the fact that Dr. Jara was seemingly, as something that I've now brought up multiple times, in with the elites.
Okay.
And so between
but the elites that he is, the rumblings that I've heard is he's tied in with the big Democratic elites, the big like Soros type elites, and I would imagine that that's your camp.
He is not. No, he's not. He's an appointee of Rick Scott. He's a Republican who is fully invested in the charter schools. I'm against charter schools. He is a proponent of charter schools.
Why are you against charter schools? No, I don't want to get into. We're not going to get into political argument. Because I know we could go. Yeah, forget.
Sure.
It. Let's go on something juicier because we're going to be talking about trustee sex lives a lot tonight, a lot more than I expected to. What's up with Katie? I mean, first of all, I don't even know what I'm allowed to say or not allowed to say, or what you're allowed to say or not allowed to say, because I've heard rumblings about Katie Williams about Christmas time in January was possibly dating somebody, but everybody was like, oh, well, she's married, and now there's accusations of her canoodling, I believe was the word, with some executive. And I mean, how much do you know? How much can you share? What's the deal with Katie Williams? And is she conservative? Like, she loves guns and she loves conservatism. Is she conservative sexually, or is some of the rumors got any water?
In December, I was at Katie's house, and she made a great statement, one that I appreciated. She said, Sarah, I'm a Christian first, a conservative second, and a Republican third. Her words. I also know now that she's a strong female who's single, raising a child, working in private enterprise, and serving the nation.
So how much are you willing to share that you actually know? It sounds like you're kind of fluffing it up here. I thought you were going to drop some bombs. What's going on? You know what I really want to know, right?
Ask what you want to ask directly.
All right. Do you know if she slept with Matt Anthony?
From my understanding, she has never slept or engaged in anything physical with Matt Anthony.
And how about her canoodling friend?
No, absolutely not. I confronted her about that multiple times. She even told me the last time that she even was at a dinner with Jara was back in the spring, and there was multiple people around.
All right. And, to be honest, it probably wouldn't even come up, but later in the episode, another trustee's sex life comes up in open meeting. And, really, the drama and the soap opera is really, really quite shocking. Quite shocking. All right.
We all want to know, so we will have some stuff to talk about on that topic.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. When I first talked to you earlier this week, you told me that in some indirect way, this whole thing may have been stimulated, or the catalyst may have been my interview with Danielle Ford. She was on a couple of months ago. You guys could always look that up. And we had I think it was almost 3-hour conversation about everything CCSD. And you told me you found that episode really interesting, and it prompted you to get in touch and reach out to Miss Ford. Am I framing that correctly?
Very close to being correct. So I found it was an incredible interview. And around that time, it was in July, I had my birthday fundraiser, and Danielle contributed without prompting to this organization that I was doing a fundraiser for. I reached out, I thanked her. Due to my friendship with Katie, Danielle was always, I think, a little bit skeptical of getting on guard of communicating with me. So we had a back and forth. And at that point, she asked if we could get together, or I asked to get together, could have been. And she said, sure. And I went over to her home in August. And after a 3-hour meeting, we realized that there was a significant amount that her and I had an alignment together, including both of us having 3-hour interviews with Johnny Brew.
Right.
And we both
Katie Williams has never. Do you know when I first started the Johnny Brew show? She's one of the first people I reached out to before I even started it to say, I need some guests, lined up. So if I launch this thing, I could have some. And she was the first one to say, "Oh, I'll do it." We set up a couple of times. Once she gave me plenty of notice but couldn't have made it, and then another time she called me literally an hour before the interview and said she couldn't make it. And I was definitely disappointed. You know how much effort I put into preparing for these things.
The hardest working man in Clark County entertainment, Johnny Brew.
All right. So, continue. So you reached out to Danielle Ford. You finally broke the ice with her, let her know that, you're not a robot.
Correct. And we both agreed clearly from her vote and some of her statements that Jara had to go. I also still wanted to see Jara go. And I told her, if there's ever an opportunity for you guys to get rid of Jara, I'm on your side. And when I tell somebody something such as that, you can count on me.
But what does that mean? I mean, you have Sara Cirillo on your side. I mean, you want to get rid of Jara? You got Johnny Brew on your side, but that doesn't do much for you except for one more person. What does Sara Cirillo offer that, somebody else doesn't?
There's nothing. Yeah, but you have somebody who's friends with Katie who's willing to step out and push back against Katie with the Jara issue and some of Katie's behavior.
So from a PR standpoint, you could be...
Yes, that's where it came from. But we never saw each other again. Great meeting. All of a sudden, last week, the notice comes out about 3.01, which was the removal of Jara. And I receive a phone call from somebody who is not Danielle Ford, telling me there's going to be another agenda item placed on. So for the first time, I wrote about CCSD. It was a Friday, maybe 8 days ago. And I put in there that there was the attempts to remove Jara or attempts to remove Cavazos.
Right.
Cepeda was going to have an issue with deciding. That evening, 3 people contacted me to give me information on the union bargaining, on Fakisha Miller's ethics complaint against Jara. And I reached out to a major figure in the Nevada media scene who is the only person who knows all 3 of the sources. I suggested that the story would be very important for them. There was no time for them to do anything with it. So I ran it myself.
Right.
And it's now been read 5,000 times, and that caused Lola Brooks to attack me from the dice when she...
Say that again? Lola Brooks did what?
Lola Brooks attacked the blogger who, I think she said the blogger who got this started. That was me. And I've been told expect to maybe be deposed in some lawsuits as to who the leakers were.
Really? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Lola Brooks the poster child for the Democratic Socialists of America? And aren't you a Democratic Socialist?
I am a Democratic Socialist. And I've never seen Lola Brooks at any of our get-togethers.
I mean, they on their national websites, they really celebrate her. She's like one of 4 dozen Democratic Socialists that actually worm their way into public office. And, she's like on the front page of the Democratic Socialist website as being, their poster child for how we could get Democrat socialists in office.
As I told her during the meeting, turn in your socialist card, Lola, and go join Jara and the other elites at a charter school. We don't need you here.
Really? You said that to her?
I tweeted it right at her. Yes.
And how did she respond?
She has not responded. I don't think she will respond. She's somebody who is accused of being cunning and strategic, and I can appreciate that. Yeah. But ultimately, as you know, Johnny Brew,
yeah, you're Democratic Socialist and your rules for radicals and whatever you need to do to get the job done. I might not agree with it, but I'm becoming more familiar. But
so what I did...
I have a question. I mean, just a hypothetical. What if my name is Irene Cepeda, and I have a money profiteering scheme. I vote Jara in, and then 3 months later, I vote him out. Jara gets anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million because of that flip-flop, and Irene Cepeda gets 10% of it. Like, am I being too malicious? Are these people not capable of such a sinister plan?
I don't believe in the case of Trustee Cepeda it was that. From my understanding and my sources, Trustee Cepeda is eyeing much bigger office. Those close to her have told me this. And she can't win without the special interest groups and justice groups that applied the pressure to her. So I do believe it was due to the fact that she understood her political career ended if she didn't vote this way.
I mean, with all due respect, I don't care if you're Katie Williams or you're Irene Cepeda or you're Danielle Ford. Maybe Danielle Ford has proven herself to be somewhat of an individual. You know, again, I don't agree with her politically, but I agree with her personal drive for truth and what's true, her truth, or whatever you want to call it. But any of the other six, how could any of them be looking for higher office? Whether it's Katie Williams or, I mean, they're in charge of a ship that's sinking really, really, really bad. And they're on TV and YouTube acting like the housewives of Orange County, you know, Trailer Park Edition. And you got the president, who's a family counselor, who is literally, I feel like she's like Merrick Garland trying to introduce CRT so his business could bring in CRT. She's ruining families, and now they're going to need like psychiatric help, and that's going to make our business bigger. I mean, am I that far off? I mean, none of them deserve higher office. I think most of them deserve to be kicked out of office.
What people deserve and what people imagine for themselves are two entirely different things. I just dropped out of a race because we know elected office doesn't necessarily matter. You lose your independence, among other things. And we saw this with Trustee Cepeda. She lost, for whatever reason, she flipped her vote. She flipped it. For those of us who didn't want Jara in there, great. But just like with Trustee Williams, there's the flip-flop aspect that has to be looked at now in the future.
And if you go back and you look at the last time this came up when they voted to renew his contract, I said then, why don't we just fulfill the contract he has now, and with a month or two remaining, we could decide if we want to keep him. Why would they, like, it just doesn't add up unless you start adding sinister things to the mix.
That's why I believe the article that I wrote entitled Et tu, Fakisha, about CCSD's chief negotiator and counsel, she's on the legal team, who ran for judge and lost in the primaries and has political aspirations herself. Her turning on him was what led to the vote being brought up again. So when somebody's right-hand person and lawyer turns on them,
right,
people have to listen. That's what caused it.
All right. Well, let's get into the meeting itself, all right? We selected a few clips that we could see some reasons why they're trying to get rid of him, and we're also going to get to experience what the meeting was like itself, all right? First, we're going to go for the most simplest explanation why somebody who's plugged into the actual issues, why they want Jara out. This is Chris Gugliani. Do you know who that is?
Yes, she was a Clark County commissioner who ran for governor.
Can you say that again? I understood that she was somebody who had run or held office before, but I didn't really understand who she was.
She was a Clark County commissioner who ran against Steve Sisolak in the Democratic primary. She had a tremendous amount of support, was considered the progressive candidate, and is also rumored to be one of two major contenders to become the new superintendent of Clark County Schools.
Oh, you think she's one of the top contenders?
That's a name that's been given to me, and I'll break another name here on the air when we talk.
All right, we'll save that. We got a lot. Guys, this is going to be a huge episode of the Johnny Brew Show. I hope I don't do something too silly, because a lot of you guys are going to be seeing me for the first time, right? All right, so this is going to be, like you said, former 2018 runner-up for the Democratic bid for governor and possible candidate for superintendent, why she wants Jara out. Chris Gugliani, play tape.
District. I love this district. I spent over 30 years of my career as a middle school special education teacher, and I'm proud of that more so than anything in politics. In my classroom, I had several simple rules. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. Can't is a swear word. Be respectful of each other. And it's not you as a person that I am concerned with, it's the behavior. Now, the continued infighting, dysfunctional leadership, dishonesty, climate of fear, retaliation, cronyism, and possible misappropriation of public money for outside contractors means enough is enough. That's why this agenda is needed now and not when 6 weeks down the road or 3 years down the road or 2 years down the road. I know that all 7 of you care about your community. I know you care about the kids and the parents and the staff, but you won't know it because of the leadership of Superintendent Jara has created mistrust amongst you and has paralyzed you from acting in the best interests of our children. That means the superintendent yourself is responsible for what's going on, and there's no one else to blame. Sometimes you can, bless you, sometimes you can fix what's broken, and sometimes you shouldn't try to fix it. In 2019, his behavior, actions, and lack of communication caused a no confidence vote by administrators. In their letter, they quoted, "You are selfish and without moral code or compass." In 2020, Governor Sisolak accused him of misleading others and blaming others for his poor decisions. State Superintendent Ebert said, as a leader in education, he has the responsibility to set an example, and blatantly altering the truth is not only a bad example, it's a disservice to our educators. Speaker Frierson said the trustees will do nothing, and you will be the benefactor of their failure to act. By your own misbehavior and dishonesty, you've neutered yourself and rendered yourself universally ineffective. That then renders Clark County School District ineffective. Enough is enough. Item 30.1 should earn a yes out from all 7 of you. If you care more about the children than you do about your relationships or personalities with somebody else. One person brought this on himself. I appreciate the support of mission, but that school was started, I believe, before the superintendent was here, and I hate using kids to pander. Can't is not a swear word. Can't is a swear word. So tonight, I ask you, and so do others, to show us what you can do for this community. That means vote to support this. It is time to move forward.
And that was the end of her time. And again, you know, on my previous episode covering the Republican Party activities in Winnemucca, Michael McDonald said, you don't see the Democrats tearing each other apart. And here you go. I mean, these are progressive Democrats pulling each other apart. I agree with everything Ms. Gugliani said. Can you, I mean, is she somebody that is in your camp, Sarah? Is she somebody you agree with?
So she's been a great leader. What I'll say is this, due to the fact that it's possible that she's going to be in the mix for superintendent, I don't want to, as a person in the media, endorse or attack Chris G.
Right.
However,
I mean, I just want, I mean, if she, you know, because I agreed with a lot of what she said, but at the same time, you know.
I'll say this. I agree with a lot of what she said. I think to classify, though, that the progressives are tearing themselves apart when we know that Katie Williams is not a progressive. Lola Brooks is most definitely not a progressive. And so the only progressive that may be on the board is Evelyn Morales. And, you know, Cepeda is potentially progressive. Cavazos is a very moderate Democrat.
So now we're going to split the Democratic Party into 3 categories: Democrat Socialist, Progressive, and Moderate Liberal?
What I'm saying is there's no infighting among Democrats. It's infighting because of Jesus Jara.
And what's up with her calling him Jara? I mean, is that kind of, I mean, if you're a Democrat, I mean, don't you, that kind of cultural teasing is not really politically correct. Why can you get away with it? I know if a Republican had done that, they'd have been called a racist up and down the block.
How people choose to make pronunciations are not something that was going to be a topic of this show. But I will say, Johnny Brew, that we have to be culturally sensitive, because without proper recognition of a person's name, we strip away their identity, don't we?
And that's something I wanted to address. I'd never even addressed it, but I consider you a friend, and I tease my friends. So I just wanted to make a disclaimer. Not to you, because I know that you're a regular person. You're not super offended by everything. But if I ever tease Sara, please don't. That's because I like her, not because I dislike her.
As I always say, I'm not the pronoun police. I know when people are trying to hurt me, and I know when people are having fun.
Or
Johnny Bruce
making
never
a
trying to hurt
mistake.
anyone. Yeah.
Very, very good. All right. So then, this is somebody who was speaking regarding her own personal experience with these vaccine mandates, and this person is not a fan of Jara or the board. This is Miss Chelsea Fisher, continuing to represent not the progressive side of or the Democratic side of why we want to get rid of Jara, but more the conservative side of why we want to get rid of the entire school board. This is going to be Chelsea Fisher. Play tape.
To serve. Also, I am a victim of maladministration, and you guys have been violating my ADA rights by forcing me to wear a mask when I have let them know in the front that I have serious medical conditions, and this prohibits my breathing from my brain condition, which is called Chiari malformation, and I have heart conditions. So I just wanted it to be on record that you guys continue to violate ADA laws and demand that I carry paperwork with me from a doctor, which is in violation of ADA laws. So if somebody could present this to the board, I would appreciate that. On September 1st, I was invited by friends to speak out about my truths and trauma from being vaccine injured, as well as my two beautiful children, to also speak as an ex-medical professional who left the now corrupt and politicized field. During this meeting, somehow 2 unqualified physicians were allowed to speak on record, one of which was Dr. Cortland Loff, who lied on public record, which led to me being assaulted by CCSD police, which my understanding, the person who oversees CCSD police is Superintendent Jara. This resulted in serious harm to previous injuries I incurred on active duty. Today I am here to demand not only the removal of all of you, which voted to pass an illegal negligent mandate on your employees, but also a full financial audit on the money tied to these illegal mandates. Let's talk about also the illegal excessive testing of healthy asymptomatic students, because the world now suffers from what's called Munchausen. Each meeting, I have heard comments from board members about how uneducated the public and parents are that attend these meetings, mostly by President Linda Cavazos, but it appears that you are finding out the latter while being slapped with lawsuits from us. Today, I am also demanding that the state AG and DOJ step in and assess that Superintendent Jara nor any future superintendent be in charge of CCSD, chief of police, or their police force. They should be managed by someone qualified in the field and not by a superintendent with a degree in education who previously taught biology. It appears that no one in this entire district is qualified to do the jobs performed, including the teachers' union for their health care. As for me, this will be the last CCSD board meeting I attend, as my children are not even in this county. But Superintendent Jara, you will see me again in court. Your pay from the new renewed contract will be taken back from you and given back to CCSD schools. Florida won't want you back, but I hear you might be a great fit for Kate Brown in Oregon. As for the rest of the board, the firing of these employees will not stop our lawsuits. You are all accomplices to these crimes. The damage is done. Superintendent Jara, I would like to state for the record that I have proof in many avenues you have committed more than claimed in the $2 million lawsuit. We can prove that you are misusing funds right now at this moment by paying CCSD police and private security when there's never been any proof that this many officers are needed. The public also want to know why you delegated $180,000 to a Catholic charity from CCSD funds.
And then our time gets cut off. But, I mean, you see that, you know, again, liberals are about freedom. And I constantly try to push you, Sara, towards being a liberal more than a progressive. And, I mean, with these vaccine mandates, you really, really, really got people wondering, who does Lola Brooks think she is? If I talk to my doctor and I talk to my wife and we decide that the vaccine's not best for me, you know, who does Lola Brooks or any of them think they are to step in and say, oh, no, we decided that you need to get the vaccine? I mean, how does that make you feel?
As you know, when a couple of weeks ago, I called into your show where Nick Fide was a guest, and we discussed briefly the breaking story I did where somebody leaked to me from inside a Steve Sisolak meeting the idea that there was going to be a K-12 mandate. Part of it's correct. We foretold that the FDA approval was going to take place based on what Sisolak had anticipated. So the story is happening. My view is in alignment with yours. Who are these people to step in and make these decisions? I'm double vaxxed. I'm happily double vaxxed. However, we know there's issues. I came across an email sent to the school board, which I'll release to you and put it in as part of this article, where one of the school board trustees, I believe it was Trustee Guzman, actually complained about false test results coming from the CCSD testing system and why she was being required to be tested when she was already vaccinated. So we're seeing issues happening with the vaccines already, the testing of COVID. We also saw where Jara wanted to use masks. I released this email thanks to Lydia Dominguez from Make CCSD Great Again. She turned it over to me from a Freedom of Information Act, where Jesus Jara conspired, I'll use that term, with other superintendents across the state to use the mask mandate to stifle public comment. And in fact, it was Linda Cavazos that said we cannot have two sets of rules, one for elected officials and one for parents, students, and constituents. Jara was trying to carve out that exemption, not just for himself, but it was focused on Katie as well.
And, you know, again, it comes down to who is the greeter at Walmart. You know, if that person wants to enforce the mask mandate, you know, they're gonna. And then 7 out of 8 times, you're going to get somebody who really doesn't feel right about getting paid $9 an hour to work at Walmart and be the mask police or at a board meeting or anything else.
But when it's coming from the superintendent, in the case former superintendent, that's problematic, trying to stop free speech.
Right. I mean, because all they're supposed to be doing, they keep saying, you know, we're having these arguments in Virginia over the governor's race and everything about, I mean, really, the school is supposed to supplement a parent's education of their child. That's all it's supposed to be. And the parents have trouble with algebra or the dates of the Battle of the Bulge, so we send them to school. But if you want to talk about tolerance, you want to talk about sexuality, you want to talk about racism, you want to talk about God, you do that at home. The schools aren't there to teach us, you know, anything but reading, writing, and arithmetic. Maybe a little bit of politeness and social discourse. But I don't think, you know, why are we arguing over when it's appropriate to introduce sexual positions in school? How about we don't? And let the parents introduce that when they're ready. I mean, of course, in 8th grade, you need biology, how do you make a baby? But other than that, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg, whether it's race or it's talking about God or values or stuff like that. You know, I don't know why don't they concentrate on what they're failing at, which is reading and math?
Well, you just touched on something. Why was Jara needing to be fired? Forget the constitutional infringements, which should have been immediate dismissal. Forget the discord that he was stirring up, right or wrong, among the 7 trustees. The schools were still failing after 3 years and getting worse.
And what do you think about the larger picture? Do you think a school board trustee could ever possibly be prosecuted or tried on crimes against humanity or Nuremberg codes or anything like that? I mean, where, you know, because certain people like from the Third Reich got swept up in the Nuremberg trials and stuff, and certain higher ups was said, listen, you can't just say I was following orders as opposed to a grunt soldier.
I don't want to see any elected officials prosecuted unless they are clearly shown to be utilizing their office for gain for themselves at any level.
Right.
I don't think that would be the case of any of the trustees. Therefore, to suggest prosecution should take place.
So you just believe that 6 out of the 7 of them or 5 out of the 7 of them just truly believed a mandate of vaccination is what was best for our community, not having to do with stipends or funding or backroom deals.
That's correct. I do. Well, I believe.
I hope you're right. I mean, I have faith in our elected officials, no matter how much I disagree with them politically, that they're not evil.
Let's take a step back for a second. I don't think there's financial gain. It could be as much as, hey, we're not willing to speak up against our governor.
Fear, right.
It could be weakness on their
part. Or
part,
fear of retaliation as opposed to motive for profit. All right, well, I have a big fan. I don't know if you know her. She's Matt Anthony's sister.
Alexis Salt.
Yeah. She ran for trustee and lost to Lola Brooks. I guess this is the whole socialist progressive headbutt.
That was quite a battle. Well, and in fact, the Democratic Socialists probably are the group that directly led to Lola Brooks' overtaking of Alexis Salt and winning by a rather large margin, despite a spirited campaign by Miss Salt.
Right, and now, getting back in the history, because first of all, the only reason we're going to bring her every time she speaks, I think she said something, do you remember the quote? She said something like, get my name out of your mouth or something?
Yes, in fact, I think she was upset with both of us at different times, asking for us to keep her name out of our mouths, but she's a public figure. She's made herself a public figure.
And she's a
And in fact,
I'm sorry, I mean, she's a nice young lady.
Okay. Miss Salt brings a lot of items to think about through her public comments, and I do believe she cares about her students, and I believe she cares about her county.
Listen
Whether she's
to
the
me.
most effective
Anybody
leader is a
that would speak about their own family the way she spoke about her brother, unprovoked, unnecessarily just coming forward with horrible things about her blood, and talking to Matt about her. In 2016, she was on the fence about Trump or not. Matt thought he was going to turn her into a Trumper by 2018, and then somebody asked her to run for school board, and Matt says she lost her mind. So if she could turn on a dime like that, if she could speak about her own family like that, you talk about how much she loves her kids. Well, I'm sure she loved her brother too. But she turned on her brother like that when it was politically expedient for her. Would she not turn on these kids that she loves so much if it's politically expedient for her? She is, anyway, a wonderful young lady. And why don't we share her wonderful, enlightening comments? This is Miss Alexis Salt, esteemed sister of Matt Anthony and failed candidate for school board trustee. Play tape.
The candidate for school board trustee in District E against Trustee Brooks this last election cycle. I was a teacher, I am a teacher, who ran for school board because my colleagues are terrified of our boss. I'm sorry, Dr. Jara, we're scared of you. I'm not afraid, but that's why you all see me here so often. I cannot tell you how many of my colleagues email, text me, call me, are you going to be at the meeting today, this week? Can you say this? Can you say this? Can you say that? Because the retaliation doesn't really seem to faze me. I have been the victim of retaliation at the hands of this district. I was, had somebody call me a skank, a close personal friend of the superintendent, call me this online. My students found this. I think that at some point we all have to, the previous speaker was talking about a power play. I think we need to talk more about priorities. Right now, one of our students is on the FBI most wanted list for missing people. If you pull up the FBI.com or .gov and you look under missing people, Nomi Armendariz' name is the first one there. And nobody has mentioned this. No one. Nobody's talked about her. I can tell you, though, that our area superintendent could tell you her MAP score. But nobody can, no tweet out from the district. We have a 15-year-old girl who is missing. And this is how we're choosing to spend our time. I know you guys don't like me, and I really, like the last guy who said, I really don't care. I'm here and I ran for office because our kids' needs aren't being met. I never wanted to do that. Anybody who's ever seen me teach, and every time someone goes out to Indian Springs, they make their way to my classroom because, you know, retaliation isn't an issue in this district. But come on. Our priority, I never wanted this. I'm not a politician, I'm a teacher. And the fact that you had a teacher who went out and fought you tooth and nail should tell you something. I fought for thousands of teachers who couldn't. Administrators were pulling up in my driveway, giving me $90, $99, because they were afraid that if they supported me, you would fire them. I'm afraid you're going to fire me. Constantly. And we really have to have we really need to think, is this who we are? Is this who we want to be? Because our kids are watching and they see every single thing that we say. And they see our lack of action. And they see that you care about their test scores. But when they go missing, not even a tweet. Not okay.
Not okay.
Thank you, Ms.
That was Miss Alexis Salt. Beautiful dress. She did her hair and she looks really nice. And I'm really glad to hear she's finally on board with the missing kids. That's a QAnon thing where we're constantly talking about how I'm not part of QAnon, but how they're constantly talking about 800,000 kids going missing every year. Not just Miss Armendariz, who unfortunately appears to be missing at the moment. But, many kids go missing, and I'm glad that she has found the QAnon information so that way she could learn more about missing and exploited children. And she was speaking out against us.
We're talking about a missing child. Your snarkiness, while it was humorous enough to make me just smile over, I'm appalled right now. There's no need to equate this missing young lady to an issue that you have with Miss Salt, who, by the way...
No, I'm just saying there's a lot more. That's one missing child because, I think the child goes to Indian Springs, so she's personally connected to it. But this is something, literally, we had a rally. When you were undercover, I think you were there for the Save the Children rally outside Planet Hollywood. Tony Palmer was there, and Christy Keitler was there, and Matt Anthony was there, and his sister was tearing Matt Anthony apart for going to it during the COVID thing. It was a Save the Children rally.
I was not at the Save the Children rally. I will say
you remember it happening, though.
I remember it happening. And I also remember knowing that Miss Salt has always harbored political ambitions, and from what I understand, is eyeing a future run.
You're what?
From what I understand, Miss Salt is eyeing a future run for trustee.
Oh, what would be silly? I'm probably not, but maybe if I was to run, it would be me and Lola and Alexis. That would be interesting.
You were an educator. Well, you still are an educator. I'll say that about you, Johnny.
All day, every day.
And you also have experience in CCSD. And I think you're making a very successful businessman with the Infinity Math Institute.
That's right.
Along with your podcasting empire.
I know a little bit about politics.
A little bit. I think you throwing your name into that mix in 2 years would be incredibly interesting.
It would be interesting.
Yes.
And then also, I just want to say the last thing. It's really endearing that, I'm friends with Matt, and I hear a lot of her big brother. When she gets really passionate about something, I hear Matt coming out. So you could hear Matt's influence on her. So that's also really nice. We have a mutual friend who spoke next. Kane and all. Mr. Mac Miller went up there, and he explained how his contingent feels about this particular situation, and it's not what you necessarily might think. It's he's not necessarily all on board the Kick Jara Out train, because he, like me, believes that train passed 3 months ago when they had that other vote. Mac Miller, play tape.
So, Mr. Miller, Angela Salazar, let's go ahead. Mr. Miller.
Good evening. My name is Mac Miller, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor to audit the state and do a number of things. which is one of the #1 jobs of Lieutenant Governor. Our current Lieutenant Governor resigned. But I'm here to say this. You know, we can't get 50 people in one room to agree on anything unless it's to raise your salaries or take an early vacation. And I understand that we have conflicts. I personally believe that Superintendent Jara is being made to be a scapegoat. I don't like that he gets paid so much for us being last in the nation, because in any private world, you would not gratify somebody with such a high salary if they weren't completing a job. Now, you've got enough time to do that, and you have to work on it. But I say we make him earn his keep. I have a feeling that if his contract is breached, we might be in for a big lawsuit. Now, I will say this. I don't know if there's any trustees on the board that have any law degrees. I really don't. But you got to check with legal. And when you start to negotiate someone's contract, you really need to put some conditions in those contracts that are more clear and very specific. So I'm not going to blame Jara if he's getting over on the board of the county. It's the trustees that need to negotiate these contracts better. Now, I've been all over the internet and all over national TV, from Judge Judy to being attacked at the county meetings by security guards, and they've all said, watch out for the Mac Miller contracts. Well, Mac Miller's still here because his contracts are good. I write good contracts, and I have a great legal team in my office. So while we sit here and argue about who's mad at who and who doesn't like who and who's attacking who and who's bringing somebody in to talk about this person or that person, these meetings are by statute. They're required to be held. And everybody sits there and they listen. We really don't know what you're thinking, no matter how many people speak. What we really want is to have some non-statutory meetings where these people actually can hear you respond to what they're saying. That being said, that's what you get out of me. So sometimes people think I'm going to be here to say fire him or what. No. Superintendent Jara, and I know I'm not supposed to direct the comment, but let's make him earn his keep. I'm a product of the Clark County School District. Both of my daughters are, and they also go to private school. But we've got to make him earn his keep, because it's just going to be a revolving door of mismanagement when some of the trustees aren't reelected next year. Because you guys don't have contracts but to your terms. And every one of these people, and every political consultant knows this, each one of these people in this room represents 1,000 voters. And if a majority of these people were in one of your districts, you're...
And there goes Max Mike. As per usual, the #1 point that I like most is having that feedback. When all these people are saying these public comments, I wish we would get any sort of response about how they feel about these comments. I know half the time people don't even think they're being listened to, but, you know, and there you go, Max saying, let's make sure we read the contracts. I've heard estimates as high as $5 million because of this particular firing or whatever you'd call it. Do you know anything about that?
So the numbers have been floating around. Obviously, he has some termination pay since he was fired for convenience as opposed to cause. That said, everyone, including Mr. Miller, who's not a lawyer, needs to step back and wait for Dr. Jara's legal team, as well as CCSD's legal team, to see where it goes. It's not going to reach any sort of settlement in that number. I feel confident from what I've heard from my sources that it's a bluster. He will receive something, not $5 million. That's the high end of a number that could be computed as if CCSD was going to write a check.
Right, that's the max I heard, of course.
That's the max. And we know it's not going to settle for the max. And Jara is not going to want to go and be deposed on a lot of issues either. I already was told, as I mentioned earlier in the show, be ready to be possibly deposed. Lawsuits are going to be flying. But just like people need to be ready to understand what they say and what they say has consequences, I'm not certain that Dr. Jara is going to want to be stuck in mired in a lawsuit if he's looking to move forward with his with his superintendent education career. I mean, that will make him almost unhireable.
Is the world falling apart? I mean, the Democratic Party in Clark County just had their big turnover between the socialists and the old school Democrats. the CCRP and the old school Republicans and the new grassroots Republicans. And now you got the board. They're all suing each other and firing each other. I mean, it's like the Republicans can't even get along with the Republicans. The Democrats don't get along with the Democrats. We got 7 board members and a superintendent. They all hate each other. I mean, there's just so much division being stoked in every facet of our lives.
An elected official close to the situation said to me before the vote, one way or the other, this will resolve itself or will burn itself down.
Well, I think it's almost burnt down. I mean, we are the worst state, and we are the worst county in the worst state. We're the 50 out of 50 states and 17 out of 17 counties. I mean, you really can't get lower than where we stand right now. And they've never, I haven't heard an agenda item in months, years, that revolved around academics or, you know, improving things. I mean, unless it's some sort of software bid for some crappy company that's going to give them magic math help for, you know, $15 million.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's clearly, and I think one of the issues now that Jara is gone is that people, of all 7 of them, and all the educators and all the administrators are going to have to answer, because they will no longer be able to blame the superintendent for their woes. Things don't improve now, there will be nowhere to go.
And I don't see things improving. I mean, the kids are out of control. They're going through apartment complexes, robbing people everywhere in Las Vegas. Crime is skyrocketing, and a lot of it is like serious crimes. Like when I was a kid, like we might like lean out of a car and hit a mailbox with a bat, and we'd all scream and run away. That's not the kind of mischief the kids are getting into anymore. The kids are getting into like serious crime mischief. Like instead of hitting a mailbox or blowing up a mailbox with a firecracker, they're like breaking into cars and stealing cars and motorcycles and stuff.
And that's why we need to have intervention. And that's why more than reading, writing, and arithmetic is necessary for the schools going forward, because we need to curtail this playground to prison pipeline.
I could agree with that. Another friend of the Johnny Brew Show from Make CCSD Great Again, Nick Fidai, who says he's going to be joining us again probably sometime in November to catch us up. Again, Sara was on one of the 3 parts of that great episode. You could look that up. But here's Nick Fidai speaking on behalf of conservatives at the school board meeting. Play tape.
See today? How are we going to improve our math scores? How are we going to improve our education as a whole? But yet we talk about removing Dr. Jara. And look, I'm not the biggest fan yet. I mean, maybe I will be. We'll see. But I also place the blame strictly on the 7 of you, because all of this doesn't need to be going on right now. You are wasting far too much time on this. And as a matter of fact, if Dr. Jara were to go, I would say the 7 of you should go also. And as a matter of fact, 3 of you are currently under investigation with the state of Nevada for elections fraud. And you all know it. I put it there for you. So I hope that you guys can take a look at this, stop the infighting, stop all this crap. Let's get to work and start educating our children. How dare we post figures that our children are 26% efficient in math? How sickening is that? Does that make you guys sit up here proud? Because I'm not a proud parent. I'm disgusted. I'm absolutely disgusted. I hope for everyone's sake here that you guys get your stuff together and let's move forward from all of this. Let's do better. But I promise you this, we are so tired of it, and all of you guys are gone if you're not going to put this together. And I'm leading that initiative, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to back down. I've already dismantled one board. I'm glad to do it again. All right? Thank you. You guys.
And if you guys want to find out more about the last time he dismantled the board, you tune in, just scroll down a little bit. A few weeks ago, Nick Fidai from Make CCSD Great Again was here on the Johnny Brew Show. And we appreciate his efforts up there. Sara, you a Nick Fidai fan?
I've never met him personally. I do appreciate activism in every capacity that somebody chooses to undertake it, even when I disagree with it. Because if we don't have the ability to hold elected officials on both sides accountable, then we will fall into a neo-fascist dictatorship of thought. I'm not saying it would necessarily show itself in the levers of power.
I hate that
And
we
don't
agree on
want
stuff so much.
So in Nick's case, whether he's successful or not, or whether his allegations have merit or not, we'll see in the future. That said, he's bringing a passion that is sorely lacking, not within the CCSD universe, but he's bringing it almost from the outside in, which is what we need to see.
Yeah, and you know, and a lot of people from a lot of walks of life, from a lot of political perspectives, are bringing their talents to the political sphere, whether you're talking about me and speaking, or you're talking about Nick and, you know, legal action against boards, or you're talking about Rob Kafka putting together, like everybody's using their particular skill set to do something. You know, you talk about, who's that guy that came out with the Let's Go Brandon song? You know, everybody's doing their part, whatever they got. You know, how you feeling about Biden in 10 seconds?
I'm unhappy.
And
Biden has
what's the
failed
biggest
us
reason?
as a nation. He's lied. Every promise that he said he would make has not come to fruition, and he has not shown the strength to put the $3.5 trillion spending bill through, which our nation needs. Let's go, Joe, and let's not talk about going with Brandon just yet.
Yeah, that was a nice scripted answer. Did you have where's your index card? If Joe Biden wasn't the nominee in 24, who would you like to see be the Democratic nominee? I won't hold you to it, just conversationally.
Elizabeth Warren.
Okay. All right, so then things started to unravel even more. If we go to 147, you'll notice Linda Cavazos slowly letting the meeting, she begins to lose grip of the meeting. Play tape. Oh, not quite ready. Play tape.
You might not be able to fix anything, but to listen and tell them you're sorry this is happening. If you can't even be bothered to do that, then why even run for office? Linda Cavazos has had a very tough time since she became president. She isn't perfect. She doesn't pretend to be. While under tremendous pressure, she's worked to keep us all safe. I don't think I could have carried myself with such grace under fire. So you might be able to take away her president's seat, but you won't change who she is to CCSD and the community. She will still be loved and admired. And those of you seeking to unseat her will be forever known for this action. And we won't forget the next time you run for office. Trust me.
Thank you, Ms. Cradell. All right. All right. We have CCSD police and security taking care of a disturbance in the lobby. Please close. Security. Security, could we have those exit doors shut, please, for safety? All right. Please remain in your seats. Do not go out to the lobby. Can we please have security? I'm not calling. Can we please have those exit doors closed for safety, please? Security, can we please have those exit doors closed for safety?
It's all falling apart. I've watched that video a handful of times. I heard some crazy lady yelling about how other people from BLM were causing trouble too. So it sounds like the anti-BLM people were the ones who were getting in trouble, and they were trying to say we're not the only ones doing it. I mean, I have no idea. That's just a little bit that I heard from it. But you can see things starting to unravel. Our producer noticed that Katie Williams is standing up with no mask on, checking everything out. You know, and it starts to get more exciting from there. Were you watching this? Did you see any of this video yet?
I did not see the video. I listened to a vast majority of the meeting. I was not able to watch it, but I was listening to the audio as it was taking place.
All right. Well, this next video we're going to play is, before we get to more of the chaos, our friend Alexis made another appearance, And we just wanted to have any opportunity to show her in her lovely dress and share the thoughts. We also were able to hear somebody who was a supporter of Cavazos. Because, again, I hope you guys notice, we do play the people support and Jara against it. We want everybody to get a full picture of the argument. So before we get to more of the chaos, it's Miss Alexis Salt with more of her stance on CCSD.
Trustee Williams likes to tweet out at least
President
once.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm hearing from my board without even having to look there. Alexis, if we can just leave names out, maybe get the message out.
Is my mic on? Okay. One trustee had a friend tweet out really disparaging things in a campaign. Another trustee likes to tweet that I lost my election, which I think is really kind of funny. Like, my knees don't hit the floor every day, and I don't thank the good Lord above that I'm not sitting in that seat, because I guarantee you, I would probably wouldn't go well. I never wanted this job. So, but it's ridiculous. This is mean girl behavior. This is retaliatory behavior, and everybody up there knows it. We're sitting here talking about how we have a real problem in this school district with retaliation. You cannot speak out in Clark County School District, even if it's on behalf of children, without facing some sort of negative consequence. This is true from support staff. This is true for teachers. This is true for building administrators. And if you're really lucky, or if you're me, you get them attacking you personally. There's nobody on that board who has shown more class than President Linda Cavazos. No one. And it's almost as if the previous president has this idea that no one will ever be as good as her at the job, and so she has to sit there and she has to give her helpful advice or whatever. But this is, if my ninth graders, I teach ninth grade and I have a ninth grade daughter, and if her friends were behaving this way, they would all be dragged down to what used to be the dean's office and dealt with. And you all know it. You know it. I can see from some of you looking at, you know this isn't right. You know this isn't retaliation. Somebody who you both, I think, considered a friend, a personal friend, has been, we had a teacher put on administrative leave because he was saying mean things about one of the trustees online. Of course she's going to vote to keep him, and of course she's going to vote to get rid of the person who put it out there that he's not there anymore. But what President Cavazos is doing is she is doing what real leaders do, which is it doesn't matter to her if she keeps her position or not, because the job has been done. Or the mission has been accomplished, because sometimes you have to, put yourself out there and blow yourself up in order to accomplish the mission. And on behalf of every single teacher who has reached out to me and given thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Very undramatic, which was good. And you could tell as we continue forward into the chaos that will ensue that Alexis Salt, Lola Brooks, it's just another one of these, housewives of CCSD. And she would be on Team Cavazos and Williams, Team Cavazos and Ford instead of Team Williams and Jara, or whatever the case may be. But I do agree that retaliation is a problem at CCSD.
As well, let's talk about retaliation. Let's talk about Miss Salt, since you've now run 2 segments with her. She brings vigor. She brings zest. She brings an intellect that comes from the classroom and is able to be projected to the board. I will say, though, that I feel Miss Salt was being a bit disingenuous. I have no doubt that she would love to be up there in Miss Brooks' seat.
She said she doesn't want that job. So, obviously, if she runs in 24, I will play that clip repeatedly.
I wanted to make sure you would do that. Thank you. Secondly, while Miss Salt does not engage in the name calling and the retaliation, her allies from the NEA of NEA, National Education Association of Southern Nevada, have done horrific things to CCEA, of which Miss Salt and her friends are not members of.
Well, but you mentioned that she doesn't even... Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
No, they've led attacks on me personally, Johnny. They've led attacks on Trustee Williams. They've led attacks on their perceived enemies. I'm in the media. I'm no one's enemy.
But isn't that
Ultimately,
the
if they
democratic way to attack your opponents? You're the one who taught me rules for radicals.
You attack them with arguments that can hold up.
Right.
You don't swim in a vat of lies and then claim victimhood. This neoliberalism that is afflicting people is not the progressivism that we need to move the nation forward. Neoliberalism is a big a plague as neo-fascism. Again,
I can agree with that. But then you even mentioned she doesn't partake in the mudslinging. But it sounds like she's talking. First of all, she got in trouble for saying the word skank a second time. We just missed that at the very beginning. But, you know, she's using foul language. I mean, I don't know if... And she's talking about people's tweets and this and that. I mean, she's stirring the pot, whether you want to say
she's
that
stirring
she's...
the pot.
You know, that's the same thing as name-calling to me, I mean.
And the teacher that they brought up that was placed on administrative leave, I believe I know who they're talking about. I've had some communication with this person. There's a deep...
What's his initials?
BG.
All right.
And if it is BG that she was referencing in the situation happening with one of the trustees, I do not believe that he should have necessarily been put on administrative leave for the length of time that he was. An answer should have come from the case and not been forced to linger. That's the type of problem that I have with what goes on in the district. While the trustee who was involved, Katie Williams, did seem to suffer some bitter actions at the hands of BG, BG is also entitled to his right to defend himself and his First Amendment right as a human being who lives in the United States of America, and his freedom of thought and speech in general. So while there's so much there to unravel, and I don't want to get into some of the things he said, some of the allegations, on both sides, it should have been dealt with many months ago and not allowed to still be continuing to this day.
Right, and obviously, I mean, whether you're anti-Lola Brooks or you're anti-Katie Williams, especially if you're a teacher in the district, you got to watch your P's and Q's. You could express your disdain for somebody while still staying respectable and understanding this is your place of employment. All right.
I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. All I'm stating is that we need to have a situation where things move faster so it doesn't linger and allow for issues to be brought up months later. We need to move forward looking at the children.
Now, this next clip is a long one, and it's my favorite one, and there's a lot to unpack. And only because this part is in the beginning of the clip, and then so much will transpire that we're going to have to address. I'm going to address the beginning of the clip first. This dude, Tyler Smith, dropped a bomb on the entire board meeting when he accused Lola Brooks of sleeping with Jesus Jara. Do you know anything about this? And this is what I was alluding to earlier, which is why, you know, the whole Katie Williams thing came up, which I'm probably a lot less interested in than this whole Lola Brooks accusation. Do you know anything about this?
Do you want to play the clip first? And then we'll get into what I know, what I think, what I've heard?
Well, the only reason I don't want to do that is because it ties into Katie then fighting with Linda, and I want to play it uninterrupted. Tell us what you heard.
So, several months ago, I heard the same rumor. And I don't engage in rumors. I may start doing blind items on my site. However, a person's sex life, personal life is not of my interest, especially since Dr. Jara's divorced. However, due to the potential malfeasance that would play out from such a relationship, on Friday, and I let Lola Brooks know this, I went ahead and requested all of Dr. Jara's texts and phone records from both his CCSD issued phone and any private phones that he used to engage in CCSD business with one trustee's personal cell phone.
Really? So you'll be able to get all correspondence between the two of them?
Whatever would be, all business correspondence and anything else that would be there, I've asked for. I've also asked them to preserve any and all evidence and not to erase nor allow for the erasure of any of these messages. And I also requested messages coming through any phone numbers, any apps that would utilize these phone numbers, including WhatsApp, Signal, Messenger, and Telegram. And due to the
who do you do this on
transparent
behalf of?
Political.tips.
Really? Very,
Yes.
very interesting.
And so ultimately,
you'll either have hard evidence or you won't, but you'll be able to read between the lines and know if there was something going on.
or the third issue, hard evidence, or hard evidence pointing towards nothing going on.
Well, that's what I mean.
And if
You'll
there is-
either
yeah.
see they definitely did, or you'll be able to at least get the gist of, no, if they were dating, they wouldn't be
Exactly.
talking like this, or they definitely would be. So at least we'll be able to get a much more educated opinion, if not factual.
Everything I act on, and I'm going to say this, and people can make the remarks about me, and this part is true. I act on behalf of my community and myself. I don't carry the water for anyone. So the allegations that the stories are written, that's why I don't keep ads on them, and I don't accept money for the stories, haven't and never will. I do it for myself and my community. And in this case with Trustee Brooks, referencing me as a blogger, which is fine, I realized maybe there was more there based on her own actions that we as a community needed to get to the bottom of.
All right, and then it's going to lead to even more fireworks. So, grab your popcorn. There's a nice little 5-minute clip that encapsulates everything that was this week's CCSD board meeting. Play tape.
Craziness that goes on. I tried to watch some of these school board meetings over Zoom because the school was shut down. And I felt like I was watching an episode of Jersey Shore or Southern Nevada Housewives. It was crazy, the cattiness that has gone on, and that is completely unrealistic and disagreeable for leaders to act that way. I implore you to do better. If I could be there, I would be there, but I cannot be there. Also, I just want to say on my way out, Ms. Brooks, you're the one that was sleeping with Dr. Jara, is that right?
Oh.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but he needs to be security. Will you please make sure that that person is escorted out? Please leave. And that was totally out of line. Please remove him. Please remove him. Please remove him. I am sorry that happened, and I personally apologize to Trustee Brooks that person did that. I can handle this.
Can you?
Please. Trustee Williams, please put your mask on.
I will in a second.
We will wait.
I will be leaving soon because my daughter has a Halloween pageant. It is clear to me that you cannot control your own boardroom. It is clear to this entire community that you cannot control your own boardroom.
Trustee Williams,
I do not believe in the mask. I was actually being very nice in doing this for most people.
You are out of line.
And I don't care. I don't work for you.
You're out of line.
Don't work
Please,
for you.
you're out of order.
I don't work for you.
Miss Miller, is she out of order or is she out of order?
Pretty sure I don't work for you.
I'm pretty sure you're out of order.
That's okay. That's
If
your
you are
opinion.
going to-
And you're an expert at your opinion. Don't we all know
If you are
that?
going to leave, Trustee Williams, then you need to leave now if you're not going to put your mask on. You are taking
Continue,
attention
Linda.
away from the really terrible
I'm pretty
thing.
sure every time you don't kick out someone who outbursts in this room that you take the attention away from the actual thing.
Goodbye, Trustee Williams.
No, it's okay. I'll be here for just a second. Let me gather my things and I'll leave and I'll pull a Trustee Ford and I'll leave because I didn't get my way.
I'm sorry. Please stop.
Oh, look at all of this craziness that you can't control, Linda.
Please put your mask on. We cannot
Please control your room.
Please remember that you work for these people.
And
You
I'll
work
see
for
them in
these people.
2024.
Trustee Williams, we cannot have different rules for the trustees than we do have for our constituents,
Except
our
for you,
children,
right?
and our parents. Can you please put your mask on?
I think a recess would be a great idea.
No, we're not doing a
Can
recess.
we get an
We're not going to
opinion
recess?
from our
Why
attorney?
not?
All right,
Because you can't have a
let's-
conversation. You
okay,
can't
I'm
like
sorry.
put on the carpet for anybody.
I'm
Because
sorry.
you can't answer for your own issues because you went behind everyone's back and did this.
We need some help here. Can one of
All
our
right,
attorneys please
excuse me,
intervene?
what we're going to do, what we are going to do.
The officers want a recess, Linda.
No,
The
Katie, we're
officers
not
want
going to do
they,
that.
They said it. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure they
please.
want it.
This
Please.
seems like
And
an
aren't
attempt
we
to
supposed
close
to listen to the
meeting down.
Is
And I don't want to
Cecily,
do that.
is Cecily here?
This seems like an
All right.
attempt to close a
Here's
meeting
what
down.
we're
I don't
going
think
to
I was
do.
talking to you, Danielle.
I'm
Here's
talking to
what
our
we're
attorney.
going to do. Yes.
But there's no safety issues right now.
All right. All right.
Oh, God.
You know what? You know what? We're not going to do a recess. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put on the record that I have asked several times for Trustee Williams to follow the same rules that we ask our children, our parents, our constituents, and many of whom do not agree. But we are going to move on.
Lola,
and
would
just
you like
put
to
on
come with me?
We are just going to put on the record that she has declined, and because you guys have been here so long, we're moving on.
Okay, yeah.
Ms.
I've been
Gallup,
saying things about Linda
go
all
ahead.
night.
Go ahead, Ms. Gallup. Go ahead.
I'm
Yes.
much louder than a microphone.
Go ahead. No recess.
Where's my garbage? There you
All right. Trustee Williams, you leave me no other choice. If you continue talking, I'm going to ask Mr. French to cut your mic, and I do have the authority
It's
to do
okay,
that.
Mr. French. You can cut my mic.
All right, thank
There,
you.
now it's my permission.
Miss
It's my
Gallup,
choice.
You are
Not that
taking
you give
time-
anyone else a choice.
You are taking time
That's
away
okay.
from a constituent.
That's all right. You take the time away from everyone. All the time. In closed sessions, on this board, in briefings. Oh, I don't care.
Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. I am flippin' mortified. That is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. And these people are in charge of 300,000 children's education. And your little friend there, Katie, who I agree with 100%. Cavazos is an incapable person to be in that position. She shouldn't be in that position. The masks are BS. Get them off our kids. Get them off the trustees. Get them off the people in the crowd. The whole thing is ridiculous. I agree with her 100%, and she makes me sick. That is not how I want my argument presented. They are like a bunch of 7th grade girls, and I know 7th grade girls. I teach them, and they're worse. These trustees are worse.
Katie Williams must resign from the board. Jara's out. It doesn't matter. She must resign. She's incapable of being an elected official. As for President Cavazos, she handled it with grace and she handled it with dignity as Katie went off the handle. Furthermore, regarding President Cavazos, she made the statement, the mask mandate didn't come from her. She said, if we're going to have a mask mandate, we cannot have rules for electeds versus rules for us.
And Katie gives her the opportunity to have the higher ground. Again, I agree with Katie, but the way she...
Katie's must resign. She must.
I don't know if it's resignable. I don't think it... I think that she needs to take a look in the mirror and start acting like a professional. I mean, she's going to a Halloween dance with her kids, so she's going to miss half the board meeting. You know, we keep making excuses saying, oh, she's serving in the National Guard and she's doing work and she's doing this and she's missing votes, but she's on our side. And the way her decorum is disgusting. She can't go to a dance with her kids on the night of a board meeting. I don't care if it's Halloween. I mean, I understand if you have a National Guard appointment. I understand if you have your kids' recital or graduation or a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But you can't miss the board meeting to take your kids trick-or-treating.
Let's remember something. The vaccine vote, whether you like it or not, was 5-1.
And how could she not show up to speak for us?
Exactly. What people don't realize, and we can go into the discussions that Katie and I had after the removal of Dr. Jara, but what people don't realize is that without the conservatives being upset with Katie, there is no removal of Dr. Jara. Katie herself brought the removal of Dr. Jara on through her own behavior, her own actions, and her own hypocrisy when it came to presenting who she says she is versus the actions that she does as an elected official.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know if she needs to resign over it, but I definitely am not, because she's supposed to be my contingent's representative. And, you know, a lot of times I think she was taken out of context. You start whining about she's using improper hashtags, and I really, Sarah, I roll my eyes at you. I mean, come on. This is, you know, you're going to start complaining about her hashtags, which, you know, may or may not be whatever. But she needs to represent Republicans or conservatives as being the only one on the board with some comportment, with some decorum, with some class. And that was the most classless thing I've ever seen.
It was classless. It was immature. And it ties in. It wasn't just that one, quote, outburst. It ties into this pattern of behavior that she's engaged in since being elected.
Well, and then there's more. So Katie leaves, and then another friend of the Johnny Brew Show, Susan Prophet, was speaking. And as Susan Prophet finishes her remarks, more chaos ensues. We good? We're going to be 2 seconds. 1. Play tape.
Katie Williams, because she would not comply with a mask that doesn't even work. It makes people sick. It made my husband sick, and now he's going in for a biopsy because he's been
topic. Thank you. All right. We do have some other speakers here. Yes. Jamie Tedrinsky.
Okay.
And after Jamie, shh, please. After Jamie, we also have Sarah Comroe on a more than one.
No.
Please.
Okay.
Please.
No.
Oh.
No. Goodbye.
Please. Please remove this person.
Oh boy.
Miss, please shut the door. Okay, goodbye. Miss Tadrinsky.
Guys, I'm not even playing. I've been there. I know. That is what a classroom in CCSD looks like. It's out of control. It is absolutely out of control. That is exactly what it looks like when you're trying to teach a kid math and you got 40 idiots in the room all screaming at each other, throwing things and making fun of each other, and you're supposed to be teaching people about the quadratic equation, and you can't. I mean, the decorum, the example, the trustees, the whole thing is a circus. There's no way I would allow any of that. I don't even care. I don't have to be the president of the board. If I was on the end of the board, there was got to be something you can do to regain control of the school board meeting. The decorum from these adults is atrocious.
When I was a candidate for office, even though my child, as mentioned, is a product of CCSD and is currently in CCSD, and even though there's someone very close to me who was affected by the Teachers Health Trust situation and is a teacher at CCSD, I chose to not go down to that meeting ever, any of them, because I didn't want to be associated with the clown show, as some people put it, that takes place down there. And it just seems to be self-perpetuating and self-feeding.
It's embarrassing. It's really, really embarrassing. I'm here to share the news and to educate people. And I'm thinking, maybe we shouldn't be showing this off. I mean, maybe this should be one of the dark corners of C-SPAN that nobody's talking about, because it's disgusting. And to just think that, you wonder why we're last in education. I mean, did you hear the word math or reading once during any of those clips? And I promise you, I'm not being selective. It's not like the other 5 hours of tape they're talking about improving, the equation of line knowledge.
It's heartbreaking, Johnny. And with the current board, again, if they're not able to start looking on how to put the children first, there's going to be consequences for all 7 of them, because they can no longer hide behind the notion that it's all about Jesus Jara.
I agree 100% that, they got to put up or shut up, because 3 of them are up for election in 2022, and including Ms. Cavazos, and who else is up? Danielle Ford, and then is it Irene Cepeda?
Correct.
There you go. Those are the 3 that are up this time, and then obviously in 24, the other 4 seats will be available. I wanted to show some people. Do you want to show the Facebook group, the new CCSD Board of Trustees? And I just wanted to show you guys what that page looks like, because you'll be able to see, you'll get news reports from Channel 8 and stuff about the board meeting. You'll get the full board meeting. And I'm sorry? Yeah, you could just put it right up. All right. And, like I said, anything educated related. So, like I said, Sara just wrote 2 articles that were educated related. They're up there. Katie Williams, when she tweets, or when Danielle Ford has something to say, or when there's anything going on with the school board, anything right there, you just saw a mama lion taking care of her baby cub, because that's what you're going to see at these school board meetings. I thought it was very apropos. Are we still going? And then if you go down really quick, we'll see some tweets from Katie Williams that she released after the school board meeting. Keep going. That's this full school board meeting, if anybody wants to see it. That's the picture, and that's the article that Sara wrote. If you keep going down, that's the Las Vegas Review-Journal cover of academic scores. Here's another Jara is Gone article. This is Katie Williams. Things got a little bit heated, and something about she meant every single word. She's not backing down on any of her statements and stuff like that. I think there might even be some more. But you guys get the idea of where this page is. It's strictly about the CCSD stuff. So please, if you're going to be voting in the elections coming up, please, this is where you're going to find all your candidates. This is where you're going to find all the information and links to the school board meetings and so on and so forth. And now back to Sara. First of all, about the Cavazos family decorum. We saw, I don't know if it was a family member of hers giving the finger to Susan Prophet. You also saw them being really nasty with some of the other people. And I'm not saying they're the only nasty ones in the audience, but what have you learned about? Because I know you're kind of a Cavazos fan, so
the person in the picture is Linda Cavazos' daughter.
Daughter?
And daughter. And this person has been, her identity has been known to me. She's somewhat of a notorious troll, but not in a mean way, on Twitter. I'm not going to release her handle. And Susan Prophet, who I'm not a fan of and who absolutely has shown her hatred and disdain for me, was sitting behind the Cavasso family.
She's outspoken.
She's outspoken. Was sitting behind the Cavasso family and prodding President Cavazos' daughter the whole evening. And so finally, she turned around and she gave that iconic photo with the middle finger, and Susan picked it up, and it made it into the news thanks to Katie Williams, when Katie decided to tweet about it. I reached out to President Cavazos' daughter and I said, I'm not going to name you, but do you mind if I run it? And she said, no, go ahead, because it's how I feel. And so I ran it.
And have you heard anything else, backlash because of that?
So As for backlash from anybody, no. People thought it was funny that I was willing to run it. And the only thing I heard from anybody regarding it in any negative way was that the person in the photo asked maybe next time they could get a better picture.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I don't really recall the picture, but I didn't remember it thinking it was like a young lady. It looked like an older lady.
It's a former, so President Cavazos' daughter is a former educator in CCSD.
Oh, how?
Who I believe is in her mid-40s.
Maybe Miss Cavazos is older than I thought then, too?
I believe Miss Cavazos is in her late 60s, mid to late 60s.
All right, there you go. So you told me, and we've been waiting. I've been really excited. I think this was a great episode with what we got. But you said you spoke with Katie since then, even since those last previous tweets, and you have some more enlightening information. What was Katie Williams saying to you more recently? And before you even get into that, are you guys like are you friends and you're telling what you guys talk about, or are you guys like having like mini interviews, like in on the record, off the record? How is this whole thing working? Because you really seem to be talking to Katie a lot in an official capacity.
So I have not seen Katie Williams since May. It's the last time I saw her in person. However, due to the fact that I'm now in the media and my willingness to allow Katie to express herself and never play gotcha with Katie.
Right. Which I try to do the same, but continue.
Sure. And that's what most people should do if they're trying to present information for the public to digest. So due to that, once I launched the website, I started to reach out to Katie more frequently. We are off the record quite often. We're on the record when I ask her specifically, are we on record? Last night, we had a long conversation. This will probably air on a Sunday. Friday evening, we had a very long talk, not about anything to do with Dr. Jara, but why, and she knew I was going to potentially be on your show. So she wanted me to bring a message to your audience. She got a little testy with me and said, Sara, I know you love this woke culture. I know you love some of what's going to be coming. But what people don't realize, and I'm now speaking using Katie's words, so I'm quoting Katie. What people don't realize, Sara, is that me keeping Dr. Jara in place was the only thing stopping CCSD from becoming everything that folks were already accusing it of. That education will never be focused on, because now it will be all about social programming. And that the people coming after Dr. Jara are much worse than what he'd ever have imagined thinking about. She mentioned to me that...
And before you go on, because I think you got the breaking coming, you know, she had said that on Facebook. And again, I'm a little upset that Katie hasn't reached out to me after we, at one time, were somewhat friendly. And I'm really not happy about the way she behaved at the school board meeting, and I'm really upset that she missed the vaccine mandate. I'm really upset that she ran on getting rid of Jara, and then now she's Jara's bestie. But every time she sticks up for herself, again, just like, say, Carrie Ann Buck, every time they say something, I share it. And with no opinion, no sarcasm, like when I'm talking about Alexis Salt or something. You know, I show their side of the story so people could know. And yes, she did say that, you know, Jara was the only thing keeping CRT out of the classroom and stuff like that. So continue. And that, and like I said, that is shared on that page, that CCSD page that I have.
Two big pieces came out of last night. One, while I interviewed her for my Breaking Steve Sisolak exclusive story on the vaccines, Katie all but confirmed that vaccines are coming. Not only to me in the conversation, but in a tweet after my conversation with her, where she referenced the fact that K through 11 are now vaccine approved, and said, here we go. I told you within 6 months. So that to me was breaking number one, especially because I heard it on September 27th from my sources in Steve Sisolak's office.
So you're more than 90% confident that by January there'll be an announcement of a K through 12 vaccine mandate?
I'm not going to say 90%. What I'm going to say is I'm confident very much in the story that they were discussing and the timeline that they were discussing it. A lot can happen between now and then. We can see a tremendous decrease in COVID cases, testing positivity.
We have.
We have.
And, you know, I mean, not for nothing, but we got to bring up Florida has the lowest unemployment and the lowest COVID transmission in the country.
As you know, I spent 6 weeks in Florida and it felt like a different world. I was there for 6 weeks over September and October. Just came out west again, back home approximately 10 days ago. And it was like it was before.
The old normal.
Mm-hmm.
The good old days.
You know, I met Governor DeSantis in his first run for Congress. So in 2012, I met him. I knew his campaign team. And it was interesting because while I'm not a fan of Governor DeSantis's, he's always been a person who sticks to his policy and his beliefs. Always. 100%
He's an individual, that's for sure.
He's very much an individual. Getting back to the school board, everyone was mentioning Chris G., who the next superintendent might be. In a non-official capacity, purely on the street gossip, Katie said the name Ebert is one you want to know. She's the state superintendent appointed to the position by Steve Sisolak. Don't be surprised if she ends up on the short list. And there is no one more progressive in the state than Miss Ebert.
Ebert, what's her first name?
I don't know how it's pronounced, so I apologize, but it's Jhone. So I believe it's pronounced Joan.
Or
but I don't
it might be John or Joni or something.
Correct. So I don't want to.
Joni Ebert, and
Ebert,
she's a super progressive.
Who's the state superintendent, and Katie wanted the audience to know.
That Sisolak appointed a state superintendent of education, Joni
Ebert. Appointed Ebert last time to that position. And don't be surprised to see her name end up on the short list of candidates. Again, non-official.
E-B-E-R-T?
E-B-E-R-T.
And then the other one was the Chris Gugliani?
Correct. And
Christine?
Again, so you have all these names floating around. There's going to be an official process. You're going to have an interim superintendent named. But we're going to probably be seeing somebody coming from within the Nevada power structure. So the argument can no longer be made that they're always bringing in an outsider who doesn't understand it.
All right. And what is it? Go ahead.
Oh, so Katie finished by saying she's going to do everything in her capacity to make people understand just how bad and duplicitous, underhanded, and deceitful her fellow board members are. All of them.
And you mean all of them? Not even her contingent? Because she's Lola Brooks' bestie. I thought they were like the dream team or the power couple or something.
I don't think we're going to necessarily see that going forward.
Oh, really? You think they're going to break up?
I think that it's possible people's own best interests and political futures are going to come to the forefront now that the glue that held them together on both sides has been
taken care of. I mean, it's crazy to me. I've only known you guys for like a year, but like you went from like Republican judge campaign manager to writing a book to running for office to having an awesome political journalism site. Katie went from like Matt's bestie and hanging out with Mac Miller and hanging out with everybody to running on Jara to then and being married and then not married and then not now Jara's bestie and hanging out with Lola Brooks and now she's not with Lola Brooks anymore. I mean, it's just so hard to keep up with.
I think we're going to see people understand as they evolve and how they can best serve the community and best serve their vision of where the community is going and what the community needs.
All right.
So Katie basically told me to end it by letting the people know that she will never be muzzled again. And in fact, no one will understand what they've unleashed by freeing her from trying to have saved the district by keeping Dr. Jara in.
Good.
And
Well-
therefore, she's there for her constituents and the community. 100%.
All right. And Katie, again, I haven't changed. I'm still the same guy you met, last year at that campaign rally. The seat's right here. I'm not going to play gotcha. Ask Sara any tough questions I'm going to ask you. I'm going to give you an outline about what we're going to talk about. I'm not going to surprise guests, have somebody pop in, or I don't know what kind of gotcha stuff I could do to you. We just want to know what's going on. We had a great interview with Danielle Ford. We'd love to have you in. Same thing, anybody else? Cavazos, Cepeda, Lola Brooks. I know I might not like you very much, but I promise you, I'm a consummate gentleman. Sara, would you vouch for me?
Johnny, I vouch for you probably in the top 10% of anyone I've known in the political spectrum when it comes to fairness and it comes to transparency.
Good.
The Johnny Brew Show will always treat people with respect and honesty.
And ditto for you. I always appreciate our conversations. So, guys, that's Sara Cirillo from political.tips. You could read all of it. What are you releasing, like an article a day on average?
It feels that way. I'm working on the book as well. People have read chapters.
I thought it was coming out in August. What happened?
I launched a website that now has more words in it than a book does. I think I've written 23 articles totaling something like 30,000 words.
Busy.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you want more of this great coverage, please hit us up on YouTube or Rumble for video, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff for audio only. That's all I ask for you guys. Let us know what you think in the comments. Give us a like, give us a share. And if you disagree, we want to hear from you. If you agree, give us a reason why. I really want to thank you, Sara, for joining us. It was really enlightening. And that was another great episode of the Johnny Brew Show. You good?
Sounds good, Johnny. You're amazing as usual. And I look forward to coming back. Whether we're agreeing or disagreeing, it's always an enjoyable time.
Good, good. Well, you're definitely welcome. And my name is John Brookhagen. That's the Johnny Brew Show. Thanks, Sara. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll get you next time.